name is Ashton August with YogiApproved.com, and today I am very excited and honored to introduce Yoshi Aono. He is the director and founder of the Hanuman Festival that takes place every summer in Boulder, Colorado. The Hanuman Festival is a beloved and absolutely iconic yoga and music festival that you created 8 years ago now.
Yes, 8 years ago.
Awesome. So much has happened since then. And to start, I wanted to really talk about your yoga journey and where it all began, because we had some awesome time off camera before this whole conversation started. And we have talked a lot about gratitude, which we'll get back to for sure, and yoga in particular. So let's just kick it off there. Let's hear how it all began.
Back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Well, I was telling you before, it's interesting. In 1989, I was living on a beach in Kauai on the North Shore, a place called Secret Beach. One day, the women of the community decided to start doing yoga in front of my tent, and I just rolled out of the tent in the morning. I was like, what are you guys doing? They're like, we're doing yoga.
It's the original naked yoga.
Yeah, right? Now it's like a big thing or something. But it was just an interesting thing because I was like learned a little bit about the practice then. And then at one point there was a group of tantric facilitators that came onto the beach from Maui, and I was in my my wise ass way. I was like, what are you guys really doing here? Bringing people from California here to bang on the drums on the beach, and we just connected well, and they snatched me up and brought me to Maui, and next thing I knew, I was living in a tantric vegan community.
Wow.
And this was in the late 80s. When I was a young boy, I was always looking elsewhere. I grew up on the East Coast, and I just felt like there was something more. There was more to this planet, and I traveled all over Europe. I went to 13 countries in Europe, and
awesome.
got to experience that. Was a ski bum for a little bit at Lake Tahoe, Squaw Valley,
fun.
and yeah, that was great too. And lived in Bali, in the Ubud area in the late 2
So has it changed a lot? Like, you've been back since then?
I was back there 3 years ago, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, and I hadn't been back since then. So all my friends were like, listen, it's not going to be anything like it was. So don't have these expectations. And for me, that's a big thing. No expectations, right? I'm just going and going to experience. And sure, it was extremely different from what I remembered it to be, but it still had the same spirit. The people had this devotional spirit, this beauty about prayer, about devotion to the gods, and it was amazing to be there. So I always try and look at what are the nuggets, the positive that's there. Sure, progress happens. It just happens. It's the natural flow of what's happening right now.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. But you're right, Ubud is such a sacred spiritual place, and it seems like, would you say that's why it's become sort of this like yoga mecca that it is today? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. It's just, over the years, it just feels like it's a gathering place. It's a vortex.
It attracts those like-minded
Yeah,
souls.
Exactly. It's a vortex, and people stay, and they build a house, and but there's a nice community out there. A friend of mine, Megan Pappenheim, puts on the Bali Spirit Festival out there, and that's a great festival. Yeah,
I have not been yet, but it sounds amazing.
Yeah, we're definitely like kindred spirits, in that. Yeah, and I've been there for that festival, and that's definitely for me one of the top conscious festivals there on the planet. Oh, she'll love that. She'll love that.
I was going to say that's such a high honor. Well, and it's a high honor coming from the creator of another incredible conscious festival. And so that's like the Bali counterpart to your Boulder Hanuman Festival.
Yeah, we are sort of like sister festivals, that and the International Yoga Festival in Rishikesh. You know, there's certain events out there on the planet that are very magical.
Mm-hmm. Raising the vibration, for
yeah,
sure.
Transformational.
Absolutely. And that's Hanuman in a nutshell, for sure. Yeah. And so how would you say that your yoga practice has evolved from the days on the Kauai beach to you know, creating Hanuman? So let's bring it up to, you know, 8 years ago.
Yeah, like 8 years ago. I mean, it's funny. I mean, yoga is just, the asana is something that was there for a little bit, not there for a little bit. You know, there's other forms of practice that I've been aware of and practicing throughout the years. There's bhakti element. There's the seva element,
which is a big piece for you.
Yeah, and that was something that was more that just comes from the heart, because it's not something like that. I was like, oh, I'm going to do this thing called seva. It just years ago, I remember being in the Western paradigm of working for big corporate companies and making a lot of money, you know, in the financial world, and that's fine and all, but there was nothing deeper. The deeper layers of consciousness weren't there for me, and what called to my heart was to go out there, because I love traveling. I love seeing other parts of the world and having perspective. And I remembered, I was like, you know, I just have this calling to go volunteer and do service work. And I put it out there, I put the intention out there, and then that led to a large stretch, I think it was about like 12 years of going to places like Haiti, you know, three tours in Haiti, Africa, Cambodia, Louisiana after Katrina, you know, and helping, you know, going to Thailand after the tsunami.
Wow.
Yeah, it just happens, and that's what I found in life. You know, you put in intention out there, and you get like psyched on it, and you believe in what you're doing, and then this natural flow happens. And there were so many amazing stories that came about of it. But I think the big lesson from it was to have this realization that within us all, that we have so much potential to do things, to contribute to the larger society, whether it be a local community, your family, the town that you live in, or the state, or the country, or the world. We have this innate potential to contribute. And I mean, do you mind if I tell a little story?
Of course not, please. Please do.
Yeah, I mean, I never, you know, I think a lot of it's self-confidence too, because, you know, as a younger man, I was a little bit confused. I was like, well, what am I supposed to do here? Am I supposed to just, you know, work in, you know, the Western paradigm, and I'm supposed to have this house and, you know, have my kids and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, there's this thing that's laid out for all of us in the West, but is that it? Right? And I remember not knowing, and you just sort of run in this sort of behavior that you think you're supposed to do, but you don't actually develop these skills of really being confident that you can do, you're privileged in this Western society to do whatever that calls to you. And for me, it was being in places like Africa, and I remember one time we were at an orphanage, and we were taking a look at all the children there, and one of the kids was dying, and he was in a crib, laying in his own feces and pee, and the workers were like, "Oh, he's gonna die," and we were like, "Well, what's wrong with him? Like, what's going?" And they're like, "Oh, he has HIV," you know, and we're like, "Well, we know there's government-funded medicine," and but the kid looked up at us with these big eyes, and it was like you could tell how much pain he was in. And my friend Michelle and I were like, well, what are we going to do? And I was like, I don't know what we can do. And she's like, well, just think, if we can do something, we've made a difference. And that like set it off. We spent days and days trying to get this kid into care. You know, the hospitals wouldn't take him. It's triage out there in Africa. And we finally got, his name was Zachariah, and we finally got to the Kenyatta Public Hospital, and it was a madhouse. I mean, it was a total madhouse. We got him into a ward, a children's ward, and there was probably like 80 kids in the ward, and the capacity was like 40.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
it was awful.
Yeah.
It was like dark and dingy. There's just kids that were dying, and families like sleeping underneath the cribs, trying to be with their children. And Zach was bleeding out from his IV, and the doctor came up to us. He's like looked at us like, what do you want me to do? And I was like, can you just help him? Like, his IV's bleeding out. He's like, I have so many children. It's only me and 2 others. He's like, we cannot take care of all the children. And I was like, please just get him through the night. And I remember the next day I was in an administrative office with some guy across the table, and I was like, listen, all we want is for Zach to be checked out to see if he can live. And the guy was like, looked at us like, okay, well, what do you want me to do? I was like, can we get him into private care or semi-private care? And he said, we can make that happen. And he's like, it will cost you this much, you know? And I knew it was going to happen, and literally, I can't remember, I think it was like $150 US to get Zach into semi-private care. And I had the money, and I knew that this was going to happen. I said to him, I was like, if I give you this money, do you promise on your word that he will get the attention? Yeah. And he's like, it shall be done. We filled out some forms. I slid across this money to him, and next thing we know, we're taking him out of this ward, getting him into this place, and we had to leave the next day, our group, but we received word 2 days later that Zach was going to be fine. He was dehydrated, and he had a chest infection. So the workers were going to just let him die, you know. And over the years, we saw pictures of Zach. We would get pictures from the orphanage, and he was this like goofy boy. He like filled out, and it was an amazing thing to.
That's amazing. To
see this, and what it taught me was like, hey, if we put our minds to anything, we can sort of, you know, go in this flow and help out some way. And it's not something that I planned, like I'm going to go do this, but it just was something we were in, and it gave me confidence to know that that we can go out there and do things and be of service.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, to know that for us, you know, like we are so privileged here in the West, and that's the good thing about traveling in third world, going to Haiti, where the entire country is a slum. Wow. You get this realization like, wow, I have nothing to complain about.
Talk about gratitude.
Talk about gratitude, exactly. Yeah. Get in my car, go get my chai tea, and you know, go hang out with friends, and go get my yoga mat or something, you know. So yeah, it gave me more confidence over the years to be doing work like this. And I remember someone going, well, that's Seva. I was like, well, you can label it whatever, but it's just, if it comes from the heart, you know, that's something that I've known, or I've come to realize over the years. It's like, instead of operating from the head, just operate from the heart. Absolutely. And really be there, and you know, be grounded about things, but operate from the heart, and that helps. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Thanks.
Thank you for sharing that story. That's so inspiring.
And that's not like, it's not like I was trained or to do anything, but it was like a special ops mission or something. And, but it's something that like anyone can do. Like, you can do that, anyone can do that. You can do that in your own town. Look at what's going on in your town and how you can help support.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the concept of seva, which is selfless service. And that's something that you've incorporated in the Hanuman Festival. Of course, you have a seva program, which is so incredible. And now you have Hanuman Adventures, which is the yoga retreats component of that. But what makes it so special is how there's that seva and that conscious community aspect. And so how's that going? I know that you recently got back from Rishikesh.
Yes, it's magic. I mean, I'm amazed every day that this is what we're working on. It's so joyful to be able to have this intention of, okay, we want to do these things, and they're happening. We're going to Rishikesh. We're bringing my partner Dana and I. We started Hanuman Adventures and Hanuman Academy,
which is your online course.
Yeah, that's online. That's online programming, but it's really based around transformational experiences, educational experiences, and service. So for us to go to India, which is the birthplace of yoga, I was saying before that when you go to India, it all makes sense. All the things that you study here in the West as a yogi, yogini, and you're practicing, you're so committed to your growth, you go to a place like Rishikesh and it all makes sense. And you understand, seva is not something you do. Seva is just something that you are. It's just a way of being. The practice of yoga is not that I do asana and I'm a yogi. It's just, you exist and you're a yogi.
Right.
And part of that existence is to be in service. And part of that existence is to just live in a state of kindness. What these trips do is they allow us to experience India in a very kind and held place, because India can be rough. And then what we do is we incorporate awareness into seva around this. We incorporate what is seva, whether it be going to an orphanage, working there, or contributing somehow. We've had multiple trips to Peru, to Bali, and to India, and each time we were there to serve in whatever way that is in the flow. And we try not to approach it in a way of okay, we're these Westerners coming in and dun dun dun, we're gonna save the day. That's not what we're about. What we are is about integrating with the local culture and getting to understand their culture and what they're doing, what their needs are, and how we can maybe help somehow.
And that's why you're making all these personal connections and relationships, right? Because you're actually just coming there, like you said, open.
Open to how can we serve? How can we serve, and not be pushing what we perceive the service onto a different culture, because that doesn't work. I've seen that before. I've seen organizations try that, and it's a strange thing, because you have these local people looking at you like, seriously? What are you doing?
Who are you?
Yeah,
Why are you here?
You have no idea about our culture. You have no idea what the needs are, what our traditions are, what we're about. So there's things. I remember being in Bali, and in Bali there's a huge problem about plastic. Trash is everywhere, and it's rampant, and people don't know. They're on their scooters, they're just throwing plastic bottles all over the place. And I remember going to a village, and our team we just cleaned up plastic bottles for a day. And we had mounds and mounds of it, and the village elders and the head of the village came and sat with us, and they were like, thank you so much for bringing awareness onto what we're doing to our village.
Because you were helping them, but it was also showing, hey.
Yeah, and it wasn't we're shame on you or anything. It was more about hey, hopefully you know, this is something that can bring awareness. And they were extremely grateful about that.
I'm sure.
About creating programs. They were like excited to like start these programs in the village where they would have these bins and let everyone know, educate them, like we're polluting our village, you know, when instead of just throwing a plastic bottle off to the side of the road, put it in here and we'll take it to this place. And so
it's amazing. It created an initiative.
Yeah,
that I'm sure has ripple effects now.
Exactly. You know, and that was just in that moment in time that's what called to us.
And so now I'm interested because I'm seeing this kind of pattern where whether you're in India, Bali, or I'm going to assume Boulder with Hanuman, right? You're creating these ripple effects through simply being in the flow enough to allow yourself to operate from that place of service and creating that conscious community. And so for Hanuman now, the festival in Boulder, was that your original vision? How did that first come into being when you decided to create the festival itself? Was it that same sort of passion for service?
It was, and that's why Hanuman is our namesake. I mean, so the story of Hanuman is one of ultimate devotion to Sita Ram, well, to Ram and Sita and to the family, right? And Hanuman is such an integral part of this epic story called the Ramayana, where you know Ram exemplifies like ultimate, you know, male form, and Sita is ultimate female form, and Sita is kidnapped by this evil villain Ravana, and this whole story happens. But throughout it all, Hanuman is just completely devoted to be of service to Ram. And in that process, Hanuman literally moves mountains.
Right.
And that's what I was saying before, is like we all have it within us. There's Hanuman within us all. And I remember we were looking at names of the festival, and we're like racking our brain, like, oh my God, what are we gonna call this? And when Hanuman came up, I was like, oh my God, that's perfect, because it's like being of service to the community. And I mean, literally, we started out as just this small little local festival. You know, we were like, oh, maybe, you know, regionally people will come. And now, 8 years later, it's become, you know, there's people from all over the world that come.
It's amazing.
To Boulder for that 4-day festival. We have people, we have, you know, teachers from India coming to teach at Hanuman Festival, to give satsang, to give talks at Hanuman Festival this year. So what I love about it also is it gives us as a Colorado community to host the larger yoga community, the global yoga community in our, you know, hometown festival. Yeah, or home state festival, because that's really what we are, because we're not some big, you know, corporation or anything. We're people that are devoted, ultimately devoted to Hanuman, like Hanuman was devoted to Ram, and we understand that this is something that we're of service to, and through that vehicle, we're able to do things such as, like this year, there is the Hanuman Temple in Taos, New Mexico, which is a great, beautiful temple devoted to Hanuman, and it's Ram Dass's project, right?
Oh, cool.
And they're building a new temple at the temple, and you know, it's pricey, and they're doing all these fundraisers, and Ram Dass is getting older, and he hopes and, you know, has a wish that it will be complete, you know, before he leaves his body. And so I've been speaking with them, and I was like, well, this is perfect. Hanuman serves Hanuman.
Yes.
So this year we are making Hanuman Festival, we're donating we're having all the music at Hanuman donation-based.
Awesome. So
if you can afford to give a donation, great. If you can't, that's fine. Where the vendor village is open to the public, it's free. And if you want to give a donation to the Hanuman Temple, that's fine. So we're just bringing, and a lot of it is bringing awareness to this amazing place in Taos. We've created this festival in order to serve the community. Whatever we can do to contribute is, you know, if the festival can do that, if the festival can contribute to our communities, then I'm cool. Like, I mean, even little things. I remember last year, a person in the community was going through some heavy chemo treatments. Like, he had some, like, he was not doing well. And this started happening a few months before the festival. And for me, I was like, I just felt it. I was like, okay, we're making the, you know, the kirtans, we're going to have them donation based to help you out. And, you know, it's just like,
it's awesome.
You know, let's do stuff like that for people in our community. And he didn't even ask. He was just, you know, there's just something that, like, I felt like because he's a young man, and
wow,
you know, so
wow.
And that's all intention. That's all intention. Like, what are we here to do?
Totally.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely a common theme that you're probably picking up with Yoshi, is that everything you do comes from this place of intention, of grounding, and of gratitude. And I love that, and I find that so inspiring, and that carries over in your entrepreneurship. Because at this point, I think it's safe to say that you're a serial entrepreneur.
Yes, I've been called that.
Yeah, and I'm calling you it too, and it's inspiring, and I love that. And what I'm fascinated by even more is that you walk this line of conscious business and spiritual entrepreneurship. And so what's your advice for people who, you know, really work in the yoga industry and are walking a similar path in entrepreneurship?
That's a great question. Yeah, it's not easy. And we live in the Western paradigm, the Western business world. I've been asked this question a bunch, and I do feel that if you can stay grounded around it and make sure that your intentions are pure, that if you do things strictly just for money, that sort of tweaks your, you know, the natural flow of what you might be doing. If you can approach things in a way of what am I doing to contribute, and how can I stay grounded even when things might seem dark, and don't, you know, for me, things haven't always been in this flow. There's a lot of hard work that goes into this stuff. As you know, being an entrepreneur is sometimes it's lonely. Sometimes you're sitting in a place like, what am I doing? Like, seriously? I should just do something else. But I think when you are passionate about something, such as most people that I know in the yoga world, they're passionate about the practice. And if they can go about it in a grounded way, an organized way, and understand that it takes a village, it always takes a village to expand out. And to not give up and to be devoted to it. That's always a good thing. And ask for help. Ask people that have gone through it. Ask the elders for advice. You're not alone, because there's a whole community of people out there who are in the middle of it, and people are willing to share information. So that's something, just to get out of your own egoic self and think you're an island unto yourself, but see it as more of a global community of people that are really trying to do something positive out there, bring consciousness to the world. The Western world needs it, and that's the advice I can give. I don't have any like nuggets or anything, but what I've experienced myself is that I just didn't give up. And I akin it to flying in an airplane. When you take off, there's all this turbulence, and you're like, oh my God. And then all of a sudden you break through, and it's like, whew, and you're flying. And sure, every once in a while there's going to be turbulence, but you're literally, you can fly. And then what happens is you enter a state of being in the natural flow of nature, really. Like, nature continues, nature happens, and the world continues, and you're a part of it, and you start understanding that it's there's a place to be where you're not in friction, where you're more in the flow. And that's what it's feeling like at this point with Hanuman and the sun companies that I'm involved with. And yeah, so don't give up. Even though it seems like you're like, what am I doing? But yeah, don't give up and be devoted.
And you also say, you talk a lot about gratitude. And is that the method by which you would tell people to stay grounded, is to just get back to that place of gratitude? Gratitude
is so important. It's supremely important to be grateful, to look around, to wake up every day and go, wow, I am alive, I'm in this body, I am so happy to be here. And when you get into that toxic, negative place and you're running from an ego-based fear paradigm, that doesn't help anything. Like we're here for a blip in time.
Right.
I mean, in the grand scheme of billions of years, of thousands of years of society, of humanity, it's like we're just here for a blip in time. So if you choose to be in a place of fear and egoic self, then that's a bummer, right? I'm not saying that we don't slip into that, but I feel that that's what yoga helps us with, is to become a ninja and recognize those things quickly, quicker and quicker, and then over time, you don't allow yourself to go into that place of spinning out, of playing a victim, of operating from fear, but you operate from a place of, inspiration, abundance, and natural flow. And it takes a lot of tenacity, of course.
And practice, just like your meditation practice or anything else, right? And you just keep coming back to it.
Of course.
And I loved the reminder that you gave me while we were talking earlier, before the cameras were rolling. And it was about how, what a blessing and how grateful we should be that we even have this ability, right? To manifest and to create these businesses that we're seeking, or this reality that we're trying to cultivate through our conscious community. It's all just such a gift.
Yeah, it is a gift. It is a gift, and like I was saying before, you're not alone. If you're out there and you're in this world of the practice of consciousness, and understand that there's a lot of other people that are doing this too, and they're inspired, and you're working with a global community, and that's amazing.
Oh yeah.
And to travel around the world and to be with people that you know and are like aligned and attuned to what you're doing, and enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not from an ego place, but more of like, everyone's in it together.
Passion.
Yeah.
Connection.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, there's a lot of people that practice asana around the, in the West, and it's almost like the West is bringing yoga as an asana practice back to the East.
Right.
So it started in the East, it came to the West, but in the West there's so much excitement around it, there's so much passion around it, and that passion is coming back to the East, which is it's a very interesting thing, even for more than just asana, like bhakti yoga, like kirtan, is a lot of people are getting so inspired here in the West. And the East is getting excited about it, and I know that places like China or Korea, and there are a lot of people there. Their teachers are Western teachers, even though they are in the East. So it's just the passion, the Western passion for conscious practices is inspiring the East as well. So that's when it becomes this global thing. It's no longer just East and West. They're a separate thing. And what we have come to realize is there's no separation. It's East and West these are just labels now, right? And so I like to look at it as just consciousness, and who are the teachers that are out there that are in it. And it doesn't matter if they're from India or from the West. As long as there's an honoring of the practice, and not a caricaturization of the practice, but a true understanding of the practice, and there's passion, you know. Passion is like everything.
It's the fuel.
Totally, totally. So
the fuel that lights the communal fire.
So it's just going to happen. It's all going to happen.
It's happening. Yeah. Well, speaking of all these amazing teachers, I know you have an incredible lineup for the 2018 Hanuman Festival. And for those of you who may not know this about Yoshi, he's an avid guitar player. So included in the lineup is yourself. You'll be playing at the festival.
I love playing guitar. I've been playing guitar for 38 years. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I get to play with friends that come in for the festival. I'll be playing with like David Newman, Donna DeLore,
awesome.
Saul David Ray, Govinda Samrata, Katie Wise, and Bhakti Explosion. There's so, like, it just becomes this fun thing.
Yeah.
It's a festival. I mean,
it's
fun. It's a fun event, and you're honoring the practice of yoga. So, like, how can you not love that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So much good. Thank you so much, Yoshi. We really appreciate your time here today.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. We'll have some links down below that you guys can click on to learn more about Yoshi and the Hanuman Festival. Thank you. Namaste.
You live a life of service. Service to the higher good, to the higher causes, to the higher self. You know, you don't operate in a way of like, what am I getting out of this? What can I, you know, what can I hold on to? What can I sort of scrounge away in my little corner of the universe? There's balance, you know, life is short, have fun, right? That's what I've always been about, like, have a good time. Like me, I'm like, I want to go play my guitar. So guess what? Like, I'm doing all this stuff, but I go play my guitar. You know, I spent the weekend in band practice, band retreat with Katie Wise, and we just played music for like, probably like 12 hours total this weekend.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what do you do about all the things that you have to get done?
They'll get done. I know, it's sort of like hard to think that, right? Like this weekend when I was jamming out with the band, I know there's a ton of stuff that's on my plate. There's all this stuff happening, there's deadlines, right? And that's the balance. It's like, okay, what is your conscious decision? I know that I'm like, it's okay if I go play with the band for the weekend, and knowing that like come Monday, I can come down here, I can go back, I can finish up what I need to do for today, and then tomorrow's my schedule's full in Manitou, and it is what it is, you know.